Hi. Hi. Happy Friday Eve. We're almost there, people. We are almost there. I've been kind of coughing today. I mean, I've been coughing for a couple months, just a little bit, because it's that time of the year, allergy stuff and whatever. And anyway, today in particular. So, okay, listen. We're going to do a song and stuff, but listen. Today, we're in Luke. Okay. I was like, okay, so what's the verse today? Blah, blah, blah. So I go and I look, and I always look down, and I read the little commentary in my Bible, kind of down here. Look. See? Got little commentary stuff. And payoff for the CD is rounded to 0 cents, but that won't be an issue here. Good. Okay, good. Sorry, I'm working and I'm going to minimize this. Okay, I'm just going to minimize that. Okay, now you've got my full attention. So I always read the little commentary first, right? Okay, wait, let's do a song first. I mean, I'm getting ahead of myself because when I saw what it was, I was like, oh, I got excited. So, okay, let's see. Such a spaz. Rejoice in the Lord always, and again I say rejoice. Rejoice in the Lord always, and again I say rejoice. Rejoice, rejoice, and again I say rejoice. Rejoice, rejoice, and again I say rejoice. Rejoice in the Lord always, and again I say rejoice. Okay, so that's the verse. Okay, so listen. All right, so now let's get into it. Listen, if you watched one of my things, I don't even remember which one it was, okay? I think it was in the Promise Diaries. I don't remember. But I told you to go and watch this thing that Lisa Harper did. I am going to butcher this story because I am not Lisa Harper. And she is like a gift on loan from God. And I am going to destroy what she's done, but I'm going to do my best. But I have heard this story growing up. I mean, lots of times. But when she went through it, she went through like the history and all these things that I did not know. And it just undid me. And so I told you guys, I was like, you should go watch it, right? So today I open my thing, I look at the thing, it's Luke 7:50, and I was like, it's the thing. It's the thing. So I'm going to read you the verse, but I'm going to read you this little section, okay? So maybe it won't, I don't know. I'm going to read you this verse. The verse is Luke 7:50. This is what it says. And he said, Jesus said to the woman, which I'm going to tell you backstory in a second, your faith has saved you. Go in peace. Now, this is the story where one of the Pharisees asked Jesus to come and dine with him and hang out, okay? And so Jesus says, yeah, okay, sure, So he goes to hang out. Well, listen, Pharisees had money. And so typically in this culture, there would be a courtyard. So it's not like you would go into the house. When you say house, it's like the courtyard. They would eat outside. And they would eat at these tables that are like coffee table size. They're lower. And they have pillows and like bean bags, and they kind of recline, and they recline on the... And they recline, and here's my right hand. They recline on their left hand, and they eat with their right, because their right hand is the clean hand, right? This is the clean hand that you can eat with. So he's reclining on his left arm, and he's eating with the Pharisees and talking, he's kind of reclining with his legs out. And they're in the courtyard. And back in this day, it's not like they had social media and TV and all that stuff. So all the people in the city or the town typically would come and like hang out in the courtyard and hang out, or the courtyard of this person's home or whatever. And they would listen. They would listen in on the conversations and all that stuff. Okay, this is so good. So, so he goes to this Pharisee's house. Okay. Well, when he's at the city, earlier in the time, he is healing people. And I think he raised this one woman's son who was dead back to life. And he's done all these things. Okay. So now he's at the Pharisee's house and he's hanging out and he's eating. And there's a woman of the city in the crowd watching what's happening. But wait, women of the city, you're thinking, so there's a prostitute and she feels bad about her life. Well, Lisa was like, the Romans in this time, and she's explaining all this stuff. You've got to go watch it. But part of the spoils, right, is that they get to take the women and the children and they sex traffic them. And they get to take the spoils. So this woman, more than likely, is a trafficking victim. More than likely this woman, and once that happens and they use the spoils up, they're damaged. There's no, that's your life now. You can't just go and get married and be whatever. And so she was more than likely a trafficking victim. And because of her job and what she does, she would wear around her neck a vial, right? Like of perfume. And it would be to put on her finger and to put like under her nose and to smell, to help her for all the horrible smells that she probably had to smell all day, all the time from the nature of her job, you know what I'm talking about. And so she had this expensive vial that she would put smells and to kind of help her. And so she's in the city. She probably sees Jesus doing all these things and she hears him. She's standing in the crowd and she hears him talking to the Pharisees. And she is absolutely undone by the presence of God. By the love of God, she's undone. And knowing that people are going to look at her and knowing that people are going to be like, she goes to Jesus. Okay, I'm going to read it to you. She goes, I got to put my glasses back on. Hold on. All right, so she goes to Jesus, completely undone. And, all right, and when she reclined at the table, blah, 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 she brought an alabaster vial of perfume. And standing behind him at his feet, right, so he's reclining, and his legs would be down, and she would be behind him at his feet, down there. Standing behind him at his feet, weeping, okay, weeping, she began to wet his feet with her tears and kept wiping them with the hair of her head, which is significant because your hair in this culture, it's a big deal. And typically they would have it covered or wrapped and so or up or whatever. So she takes her hair down, which is it's a very intimate gesture for her to do that with her hair. It's not just that she's cleaning it with her hair. It's that she's taken her hair down. And that's a intimate gesture for her to be cleaning his feet and all the stuff, right? And she's weeping. And, right, where am I? And with the hair of her head and kissing his feet and anointing them with the perfume. Now, when the Pharisees who had invited Jesus, who had invited him, saw this, he said to himself, in his brain, said to himself, if this man were a prophet, he would know who and what sort of person this woman is who is touching him, that she's a sinner. And Jesus answered him out loud, right? So the Pharisee's thinking, if Jesus was like this prophet, he'd know who this woman is. And out loud, Jesus responds to what he was thinking. And he says, Simon, I have something to say to you. And Simon said, say it, teacher. And Jesus replies, a certain moneylender who had 2 debtors. One owed 500 denarii and the other 50. When they were unable to repay, he graciously forgave them both. Which of them, therefore, will love him more? And Simon answered and said, I suppose the one whom he forgave more. And he said to him, you have judged correctly. And now this is the part. Ooh, buckle up. This is the part that Lisa was talking about that was like, all right, so good, so good. All right, so he's basically like, this person owes a bunch of money. And this person only owes a little bit. But the debtor forgave them both. Now, who do you think is more grateful? And he's like, well, the one that got more, had more forgiven. And he's like, you're correct. And then he turns to the woman, right? So he turns to the woman and responds to the Pharisee. So he looks at the woman, and while he is talking to the woman and has her full attention, he's responding to Simon. Doesn't even look at him. Dude. So he turns towards the woman and he says to Simon, do you see this woman? I entered your house and you gave me no water for my feet, but she has wet my feet with her tears and wiped them with her hair. You gave me no kiss, but she, since the time I came in, has not ceased to kiss my feet. You did not anoint my head with oil, but she anointed my feet with perfume. For this reason I say to you, her sins, which are many, have been forgiven, for she loved much. But he who is forgiven little loves little. And he said to her, your sins have been forgiven. And those who were reclining at the table with him began to say to themselves, who is this man who even forgives sins? And he said to the woman, your faith has saved you. Go in peace. Now listen to me. It is culturally appropriate, and this is like in what you're supposed to do, especially someone like the Pharisee, because it's dusty and all the things. When you go to the house, they're supposed to, the proper and hospitable thing is that you give them water for their feet so they can clean their feet off. But the Pharisee didn't do that. Like, totally disrespectful, right? But he invited Jesus over. But he has something to say about this woman, right? Who's probably a trafficking victim. And then he said, and it's also, you're supposed to greet with a kiss and say all the things, which this Pharisee didn't do. And this lady was kissing his feet, right? And then there's also, you're supposed to anoint your head with oil, or there's certain customs, right? This Pharisee didn't do any of those things. And here is what I love about this story, because I've heard this story before, right? Listen, if you know, you know. These are like how I do it. I've got all my notes, right? All my notes. I take lots of them, but these are my notes for today. That's it. Boop. That's it. Because you have to go watch Lisa Harper's thing on it. It's amazing. And but here's the thing. This story is the perfect example of Jesus being God, forgiving sins, and knowing other people's thoughts and all that, and being man, and being our Savior, and the fullness and the tenderness with which he responds to this woman that is shunned, that is looked down upon, that has been trafficked and abused, that now is stuck in that she's so undone by the mercy and the love of Jesus and by his presence, that knowing what people think, knowing that they're going to look at her and talk about her, she rushes to him and she undoes her hair in the most sweet, close, intimate of manners. She weeps on his feet and just starts cleaning him with her hair and her special oil, because she's undone by his presence. And in the face of this Pharisee, knowing that Jesus knows what this guy's thinking, he holds this sweet, precious woman's attention with, like, I just imagine that he's like, baby. And he's like responding to this guy. The whole thing he said there, he looks at the woman and he responds the whole thing I said to him. Like, you didn't even anoint my head with oil. You didn't even wash my feet. You didn't anything. And the whole time he's looking at this woman. I mean, it's so good. And when I saw that was going to be the story today, I was like, oh, gosh, listen. Jesus was really a man and really God. The stories that you're hearing here are actual history. Hundreds of thousands of documentation about the original pages written, history, right? And the thing about it is, this is not just like, oh, this is a book of nice stories. It's a love letter. It's about Jesus' love for you, that he came as fully God and fully man and was crucified horrifically. I can't imagine the pain. And then conquered sin and death and rose from the grave 3 days later so that your price and my price could be paid. And that is what this love letter is about. And that is what this story makes me think of. This story, it is just the most tender, like, for the broken and the disenfranchised, and the tenderness with which he treats this woman. It's just all the good stuff. I mean, it is all the good stuff. I love this story because everybody has moments where they're broken and they feel whatever. But there's something deep about the brokenness of this type of brokenness. The violation of being like a trafficking victim, and the violation of feeling dirty. The depths of despair. Not normal grief, but there's something about the tenderness with which Jesus shows the least of these. The leper, this woman of the city, knowing her past and that she's probably stuck in that situation now because she was taken as a spoils of war, and now she's a trafficking victim. But she's a woman of the city and looked down upon. The woman at the well, who's had 5 husbands, and people always look at that and they put that down. But here's the thing, the fact that she had 5 husbands, men who actually gave her a certificate of marriage, okay, means that she probably struggled with infertility. For 5 men to give her an actual certificate of marriage. And she was and she was probably beautiful. She was so ashamed. So she had to go to the well at noon when it was hot, so she didn't get looked down upon. But we've heard pastor after pastor after pastor talk about the woman at the well and how she'd had 5 husbands and God still redeemed her. Go and sin no more. This isn't about sex. If she were bad or unfaithful to her first husband, she would have been stoned or like none of that. But for her to have 5 certificates of marriage, she probably struggled with infertility. And the tenderness with which, I know, girl, yes, the tenderness with which the Lord reaches out to these people is something we are lacking because we want to love like Jesus, but not if it's inconvenient, not if you smell, not if you're dirty, not if you don't live in the right place, not if you're too fat or chunky, or not if you don't have the right clothes, or you don't drive the right car, or you don't look all of the special ways on social media, and so we're like, whatever. We want to love people when it's convenient. We don't want to go to the leper. We don't want to go to the dirty prostitute that needs Jesus, that probably has been in that situation from generational curses or from decades, childhood abuse. And we don't want to do it because, that is why I love this story. I'm telling you, seriously, Lisa Harper, I gotta look it up, but it's Lisa Harper. It's like, she does this thing, and I'll look it up and I'll post it. She does it so much better than I do. But that is why I love this story. Because she's so undone by the love of God that in spite of everybody else, she just rushes to him and pours herself out, weeping, to take her hair down intimately, to clean his feet. And Jesus doesn't even break stride with her while he's addressing that other guy, right? I love it. I love it so much. All right, I gotta go. I love you guys like a crazy person. Please pray for me as I pray for you. And I hope that you have a good evening. And if you don't know Jesus, he's just worth pursuing. I mean, if you're unsettled and you don't have peace and you don't feel like you have purpose and you've got stress and anxiety and you feel like there's something missing, there's a hole, can I just tell you, the Lord made you with a hole that will never be filled with anything else but him. I promise. And you can go through your life and try to fill it with all the things, and it's not going to fulfill you. You need Jesus. It's not some sort of magical phrase and word and prayer. Because he died on the cross and bridged the gap, you can go to him directly. You can go to God directly. God, forgive me. Come into my heart. Come into my life. Help me. God, Lord, help. And I'm telling you, there is a peace that passes understanding, not as the world gives, but as he gives, that you might not be afraid. I love you like a crazy person. I gotta go. I hope you have a good evening. I'm going to find it. Go look up Lisa Harper's thing. It's Luke 7:50. Luke 7. It's just good. I'll find it and you'll go look it up. All right. I hope you have a good night. I love you. And I mean it, Peanut. Mwah.